Welcome everybody to the main event 158. We're interviewing Scott Davis, also known as Baer. We
Big Al.
got to find out about that and why that nickname. I can guarantee you that there's somebody here that has far more nicknames than you, and that's Glenn Batkin, which we learned all about when we were doing the challenge of what's in a name. He must have had at least 6 or 8 different nicknames that he used as prompts. We're really glad to have you with us today, and
Thanks for having me.
like I was saying before we started recording, the first time I saw your stuff and we connected, I was just really impressed with the quality of the work you're doing, whether it's AI or 3D or 2D
Appreciate that.
animation. It didn't matter to me that it wasn't all 3D, I mean, all AI, because the work is so good and I want people to see it. And,
Well, I appreciate that.
I hope you're going to not only show us a couple of your sample reels, but also show us some of the individual things that you've done and tell us about your background. So, first, I'm going to go over the news. There's always so much AI news every week. I really don't cover everything, but there are a number of people who are posting about news all the time. The other thing that I do is I sometimes there's people that put on a interesting workflow or something, and I might include that. But what I do is I post the news. I post the news in the comment section of today's event. Then after I get done editing the recording, I will also post a link to that there, and the event will be on my YouTube channel. First of all, streamline video editing with Descripts for enablement videos. Jared Wexler posted on this topic, and so that's there. Grid prompting with Nano Banana is another post that's there. Couple things on Cdance. Cdance is now on Runway. Cdance for video to video work that our friend Tiano Zhu in Singapore posted. Oh, and Cdance is on FreePix also. So everybody's getting Cdance involved on their platforms. There was an interesting chart that was put together. Ways to use Claude effectively on your computer. You can have a Claude app on your computer, and this is a thing that a lot of people are talking about. In fact, there's two different posts that people have done, and I put them both there. The first one was about Claude projects versus coworker versus skills most people pick wrong. Then the other one is Claude has 25 features across chat, coworker, and code, and here's how to use every single one. So interesting stuff about Claude, and there seems to be more and more leaning towards Claude than to ChatGTP. Different things that they're both capable of doing, but Claude is, people are coming out in favor of it. Here's a post that says, take a few pictures of an actual location and create a complete 3D world with Marble 1.1. The guy who wrote this said, this is nuts. Create entire worlds with this, and you upload a few pictures, it reconstructs the location, and then you can restyle it any way you want. So you can be done with, he's showing it with interiors of a house, and there's, once he's got that loaded in, now you can change how you decorate the house and everything like that. What I'd be interested in trying is to see if you could do that with exteriors, outside locations. What if you took a variety of pictures? He's taking pictures, in a circular way, going all turning in one spot and taking pictures. I'm just wondering if you could do something like that with an outdoor scene. It seems like it would be possible. Runway shows how storyboarding and final production are becoming one workflow. So that is one posted by Marcus B. And I mentioned about Cdance 2 for video to video. I'm actually doing something for my response to the April Big Al Big AI challenge, which involves doing video to video for a couple of the scenes. So I'm actually getting some video from Shutterstock that is appropriate for what I want to use, and I'm going to use that as a guide for what my two characters will be doing, part of the episode. So I just continue to be amazed at all the different things that we were able to do that we couldn't do a year ago, that we certainly couldn't do 2 years ago. That's the news that I've posted there. And Scott, like I was saying, I'm impressed with your work. I'd appreciate if you could tell us about your background and kind of what brought you into this whole area, and then we can start looking at some of your stuff.
Okay. Originally, I'm from Virginia. I went to UVA for a little bit. I graduated from the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale with an advertising degree. I went to the School of Visual Arts for a while also. And of course, now it's like everything's, you can find so much information online that you really can't stop learning. So when you say continuing education, it's really everything, I think. You just can't you just can't get away from it. That's why a show like yours is great because especially right now, so much is changing so fast. And it's good that you're out there to kind of chase down what's going on and keep everybody informed. So that's much appreciated, and I appreciate you having me here too. Now, as far as the background, I started out in advertising design, well, advertising in general, a little studio, and I've been in and out of advertising. I've done a lot of design work. Most recently, I've worked with mostly investment banks and all of their clients, which is everybody. So I've had my hands on a lot of different brands, and I had to quickly adapt to each brand, do a little research, figure out what they were looking for. Any work that I had that I was doing, I had to kind of align with what they were doing. So it was very fast paced, and eventually, the way the margins were being pushed, there was less time and money for creative, and that's kind of my shtick because it's like if you see my work, I like to be creative in particular, not just do the work, but I want something cool. It's for the client, but it's also for me. It should look cool for both of us. It's something that both of us should appreciate. So I started leaning into just images for with AI, and I started cutting a few corners to get it there. I'm still working for my own materials and everything, but I found that it sped up enough and it was honest enough because that's sort of a thing with me that it was acceptable. So immediately, my first use for AI was actually doing images. But before that, when I first saw and realized the scope of AI, my brain just sort of exploded because I realized it was going to outpace everybody so quickly. And I'd spent years and years working on developing my illustration skills and my 3D and everything else. And then it's like this thing can kind of come along. And this was early on. This was still when Will Smith was a spaghetti monster, and it was just like so. It was just such an oncoming train. For like a week, I said, you know what? Not going to do it. I'm just going to do traditional artwork for my own stuff. I'm going to step back and buy some more watercolors, and I'm going to focus on watercolor and the real human art. And then I started, and this is actually how I got into digital because I've always been in Photoshop and Illustrator for the entirety of my career. But I started doing actual digital illustration because I was doing airbrush illustration, and I would have little frisket leaks and things like that that needed to be cleared up. And I go to Photoshop instead of clearing them up in airbrush, and it would take me like a tenth of the time. And eventually, I just went into digital illustration because I'm like, I can work in layers. I can go back, and digital illustration was just so much handier and faster. And there's a reason it's the standard. It's just if you're in a production workflow, if you're in a production pipeline, you have to be able to get the work out. So even illustration has to be done, within a time period, even if you're working on a book. So it sort of worked out that way for AI also that um, I had a regular illustration tradition, digital illustration, and they started coming out with more and more of the making the AI video more accessible. And I one day I just got tempted. I'm like, okay, let's see what this would do with one of my illustrations. And my jaw just kind of dropped, and I'm like, oh, and that just changed the whole scenario because at that point, all my I started having flashbacks of Disney as a kid and ILM and all these things that I was interested in, and a lot of my early work was sort of informed by. And I'm like, wait, I can do this myself. I mean, I was doing 3D animation a certain amount. I was dabbling, but I was like, this is an entire production studio right here. So it was kind of hard to pass that up. So that's where I went in, and I've spent the last year, like 12-hour days, really um, working out the my personal pipeline. I even developed some software. It's like a sidecar. We call it Baer AI. That is another tool to customize, personalize the AI that I'm creating, and also speed it up. So it's taken a while, but I have gotten where I think I need to be for whatever comes next. And I'm also, well, it feels kind of like I'm the Hobbit and I'm just stepping outside my door, and it's like this big journey is about to begin. And it's like, it's a really exciting time. It's like AI in a way is still a little scary. And if it went away, I'd be okay. I'd just pick up my regular tools and I get back to work. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it definitely is. Most of my work for my agency clients have been doing 3D illustration combined with Photoshop, but also I do a lot of retouching. I tell people when I cold call that I do retouching, and they say, "Oh, we've got our staff people that do it." And I said, "Yeah, but what I do is the impossible jobs, the ones your staff's not capable of doing." So I get a lot of difficult retouching projects, which is terrific. But since AI, and since I'm seen as being heavily involved with AI on LinkedIn, I would say the majority of the projects that I get now involve doing something in AI and then working in Photoshop. I have trained four different agency creative departments on how to use Midjourney and the Photoshop AI capabilities. And by so doing, I kind of took some work away from myself because I don't get much comp work from them anymore. But what they're doing is they're coming back to me with their comps that the clients had bought into and asked me to clean them up and make them right. So
Right.
I've been very busy this year from January to right now with a couple of different agencies, but the thing that's interesting to me is now I'm also being asked to do animations, and I hadn't sold animations before, but I've been doing posting animations and stuff, and I was mainly uh, working with CapCut for editing and stuff like that. But now, because of the types of stuff that I'm doing or challenging myself to do for some of my own projects, I've gotten where I'm working with Premiere, and I just started working with After Effects on my most recent project, and learning how to do things with that. Uh, but it's exciting. It's just truly
Yeah.
exciting. I mean, there's no other reason I can tell you that I'm still working at 82 than to say that I love what I'm doing, and I find learning all this stuff exciting, and I just keep delving into it. You know.
It's an amazing time to be an artist. It's a scary time to be an artist. It's an amazing time to be an artist. I I think it's about having to adapt. I've had this conversation and I've had a couple of trolls. So it's like I hear from people on different things. Like one old friend was saying, "Oh, you're taking away all the art jobs, right?" It's like you're getting rid of artists. I'm like, "I'm not getting rid of artists. I'm just adding animation." And pe people will come with I've had someone say, well, this isn't real art and this isn't that and this is whatever. But my whole focus is specifically on human powered work. I'm not as much fun as it is to be able to make a thousand logo designs in 3 seconds. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing logos in general, but it's it's taking what you do and making it better or giving yourself new capabilities. I I will start something and on a piece of paper or as a digital illustration, bring it in, develop it, or I can just jump in and I can visualize. I can do previs for of a bunch of things, figure out what I like, and I can develop that. I could go back to the sketchbook. I can do all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be about prompting. You have to be good at prompting, but it doesn't have to be about that. And I think you spoke to Vince recently about the AI agency I'm with, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So the whole thing with the artist AI is that it is artist based. So they begin with the artist. They don't want just like regular somebody who's just prompting. And that was kind of where I was anyway. So that's a pretty good fit. So one of the things that I'm doing for them is I'm doing like a little commercial that actually shows some of the process. I'm just starting on it, but I'm kind of figuring out as I go what I'm going to have on it. But you know, there you'll see the sketchbook, you'll see a digital tablet, you'll see me working on Procreate. Um, you might see you might see me doing some 3D models. One of the things I liked about 3D was that I was making my own models. Like this is for a children's book. These little pudgy hands. Um, it's like all this stuff is like it just all flows together. Th- Using this is like the first time that everything is kind of connected because I would be on one end I'd be writing, on another end I'd be doing 3D, on another end I'd be doing illustration. I'd be doing animation over here, but they tended to be separate projects. And now everything just kind of blends together into one project. So that's the cool thing about it.
One of the things that I find with my clients, and this has been true for years, is one of the reasons they come to me is because of the fact that I do a wide variety of things. And sometimes it's a matter of coming and saying, what's the best way to execute this thing, and come to me for answers about that. So, it's great to be able to do all this variety of stuff, and I think all of that plays into it. Your ability to do 2D and 3D animation is certainly going to be affecting what you're doing with AI animation. And if for no other reason than your eye and your experience, and being able to do this stuff. So, I find it very exciting, and it's certainly not replacing people. It's giving more tools to people.
Right. Well, I can show you some of the stuff that I've done and where it started. There's one in particular that I think you'll recognize as something like the way you work or have worked, because I heard you talking about DAZ 3D at one point as far as using a model to base an animation on, I think. I've done something like that. I'm normally work in Cinema 4D, but I'm familiar with DAZ 3D. but I use that as a base, develop the character custom character in there instead of drawing it out. And then I completely went AI with it and turned it into, completely photorealistic and then did a little short with that. So that's one way to work. But also with 3D, um, I can if I get stuck, I will like sometimes AI will just not carry things through with fine text and things like that. And that's where I can back it up with 3D. Like if I needed a label with tiny type, I could do a high resolution with a transparent background as a video, slap that on top. I do a lot, I composite fairly often. When AI kind of falls out because it has too many layers of things that need to be done, I just bring in compositing. I work in actual green screens onto layers, and then I'll have very sophisticated graphics one on top of the other. Some of the older stuff's maybe not so sophisticated, but generally it will you can pull off a lot of magic with it.
Well, I'd like to have you show us some of the stuff. And again, one of the things that attracted me was not just the quality, but you got a good sense of humor.
Well, thank you. I'll show you the very first thing. This is the piece that actually got me into animation or back into animation with AI, I guess. This is a straight out digital illustration. It's a older piece, but every once in a while I'll go back and look at something and I'll say, I should do something with that. And at this point, I was already dabbling in animation, and I decided to give it a shot. So this is technically my first animation. So I made it a night scene, and I just animated. Didn't have the this is early AI, but it's like I got the smoke going, but not the characters. I couldn't get the characters working way back when. But I was like, okay, this has possibility. And then I moved on. This takes a little while, but I'll just cut to kind of the way that I develop things or have developed them. Original pencil sketch, a little bit more developed. I believe this is a straight 3D model, and then the first AI version of it, and then compositing in Photoshop and more compositing. And that's a little. I think that's about 2.5 years ago. But that's kind of the way a lot of this is developed. I have another one that I went back for, and this one's online. Well, actually, that one's online too. But this is an example of some of the old work. It was I did the Tiffany holiday windows. This is like 2010. And I never found a place for it to fit in my portfolio because it's not the normal work that I did. But Tiffany's person called me up. They'd seen some of my probably through SCBWI, they'd seen some of my children's stuff. And they called me up and they said, we have a children's book themed window display for the holidays that we're curious if you'd be interested in. And I said, sure, let me give it a shot. So, but I never was able, I had really bad photos of it, and I was never really able to fit in my portfolio because it was kind of an odd duck. But cool. It's still a cool piece. It's Tiffany. So this one incorporates Tiffany, the old drawings, and I just brought them through AI to see what could be done with that now. So that you can see a lot of this, a lot of my stuff is based on the actual artwork. You'll see that again in with the exotic matter. That's the I think that's the reel that you first saw. But
Let me just
yeah,
say something that I would think that some of the people that are watching right now are thinking about, wow, that seems like a lot of work to go to 3D model before you go into AI. But what you're doing is you're giving yourself complete control over what you're going to, what your output is going to be.
yeah, it's I, I see a lot of people that they're clearly just putting in a prompt. Aside from just being able to keep it consistent, if you don't know what you're doing, if you put in a prompt, you're going to get something that you've seen before. On those rare occasions that I'm like, well, let's just see what I get if I do this. I will get something that I will seen in the Muppet. Well, not that's not the best example. I'll see something that I've seen 10 times. It's like, oh, this is a cool monster that looks exactly like that cool monster. It'll be you get the feeling when you've seen something exactly like it, but just a little different before. And that that drives me nuts. It's like I have 20 years of sketchbooks. If I need to, I have more work that I could draw from than I have time to do. So if I need something original, I'm not really going to be prompting it out. I'm going to work it out. I'm going to find what I'm doing. And also I just when I go into a project, I look part of the process is finding the roots of the project. It's like why are you doing it to begin with? It's not just selling things for an ad. It's like there's a reason for it to be done and done a certain way. There's the emotional content, there's the entertainment content. There's so many things to balance. And if you're just sitting there trying to prompt something out, that's just not going to work. So my background, I've done some storyboards and even before that, I grew up on comic books. You'll see some you'll probably recognize that from when you see the Batman section. But I the story is so important to the piece. There's just so much that goes into it. And sitting there just like entering, typing isn't that's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get you anywhere that original. And if you want something, I saw one of your guests was explaining about the prompt and about how they could get more specific with it. And of course, it's possible. But and also if you want to get down to at the molecular level with a character, you can do it in Photoshop and everything. I really let me ask you before I get too much farther with that. What do you think they're teaching in schools today? Our schools. Have you spoken to anybody about what the courses are like now? Because I've not had a chance to do that, and I'm wondering if they're. I mean, they need to be teaching the basics, but are they, or are people skipping art school? What have you heard? What do you know, Al?
I don't know about what's happening in the United States, but I have two friends in India that call me brother. That One of them is teaching on a university level, and he's was posting about these 200 students that he had and 40 different projects that they did, and he was showing that they were showing some of those projects, but also they had put up displays in a room where you could go from board to board and look at what they were doing. And he's doing an excellent job. This is Tappan is doing that. But I don't know what's going on in the United States, and it certainly is something that I wish that the community was really making a point to insist upon it, because unless they get going on it early, they're just going to be left behind. So I may just take a look at it. I have my second son is and his wife are graduates from Pratt, and he's an architect, and he just finished 8 years of being the site architect for this big project that was done in Central Park, and he's actually being named a partner very soon. Uh, and I could check with Pratt and see what they're doing, because it'd be important to find out. But it'd also be interesting to see what they're doing in high schools. We've had so much bad press. Students having their chat programs write their papers for them, and all this kind of stuff. You never hear about the good stuff on the news. It's always deep fakes and cheating.
Yeah. Well, it is troubling. I mean, there's so much. This is this is the unreality era. It's like you'll see something and you just doubt it. And nowadays there's so much on TV that you see that is real that just can't be right. It's like
Yeah.
that they're making that up, right? That can't be real.
Glenn, what's your thoughts?
Last year, Al, two universities called asking it just as an opinion. They said, "We're following you on LinkedIn. We love what you're doing. What do you think we should be teaching?" And I said, "Well, it depends. I mean, you're talking about fine art, or you're talking about commercial work." I think they were looking at for a 10,000-foot view answer. And my answer was, if you're not teaching AI, you're really late to the game. This was only a year ago. And if you are, I wouldn't not have you do the sort of the analog versions of art the way it's traditionally done, because I think they'll to have that background like Scott is talking about is, I think, is so critical to be able to do great AI work. AI work is to have a background in arts, photography, and sculpture, and any kind of all the other drawings, and everything else. So that was, I mean, they were glad to hear that, because one was SVA and the other was a school in the Midwest, and they were both considering dropping traditional art. I said, please don't do that. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes you could possibly make. It's not one or the other. You should be doing both if you can. And I would encourage your students to take both ends of it, and they'll be better for it in the end, I promise. So I thought that was interesting that they just called out of nowhere, both of them, the course of last year. And I think whether they'll do with it what I suggested or not, I truly hope that they don't lose the foundation of the arts
Yeah.
and the high technology that's happening now, and do both. There's a place for both, without
Eric?
question. I know you know that, Al, but I mean, there's a place for both.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I know that Glenn did the same as I. I had signed up for Brian Sykes' video course probably less than a year ago, and was busy doing some other things. And by the time I was ready to do the course, it was kind of like already obsolete. I know he's updating it, and at some point, hopefully, we'll be able to get some knowledge and additional knowledge regarding, video and all that. But from an education point of view, it's so hard to create a curriculum, because the next week, those tools are out and there are new tools in, and, that information is no longer valid. I mean, still going back to the original books that you had put out way back in the beginning, the $5, I think the $5 prompt, or the 5-word prompt, I think you had at some point.
$5 single word prompts.
The single word prompts.
Yeah.
I mean, those are still fun. Those are still fun to work with, because it's still kind of as from a point of view of experimentation. But for anything that's more, hands-on, hard learning, it's kind of difficult to really keep up on the education platform.
Yeah. Teresa?
That's what. Go ahead, sorry.
Teresa?
Hi, thank you for everything so far, Scott. So I started in the games industry here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then I went to Europe, and my husband at the time, who's now the CEO of Sony PlayStation Worldwide Studios. I only say that because it's relevant. So he started, and he doesn't have an art background, so he was just running studios. But so I was involved a lot with the studios, artists, and things. And the government, first of all, Sony invited us to go to Tokyo, and as part of that, the government in Holland interviewed us about what, especially him, of course, what do you think we need to teach our people in Holland regarding digital tools? Now, this is already over 10, 15 years ago. So he advised the government on their educational platforms because in Holland, the studio was sourcing people from all over the world. And then if they came to live in Holland, that was a visa and all kinds of other things. So it's really important now, I think, to advise or I don't know how it works because I just got back to the States. But what is happening with AI is, I think, very valid to add to anybody's education. And I don't think that people like Scott and Glenn and Eric can do such good work without the traditional art background. I fully believe that. And I'm a photographer and I studied film, and there's just some things that you learn along the way, not even so much at school, but just by looking, which is what we're all doing every day. So it's really important, I think, to bring that into the educational system somehow. I don't know how we're going to do it. I was offered a teaching job in Berkeley, but it didn't come through to teach their people AI. And I think that it's no longer one or the other. They're united, and we are going to see more and more of it, but not letting go of the traditional art things that we know. Thank you.
I think that's really important, and what I would wish for in an educator is that they do what I do every week, and that is keep up on everything that's happening. Try to know what the programs are. You don't necessarily have to work in every single one of them simultaneously, but you should be aware of this week. Kling is the best animation program out there. No, this week Dance is the best animation program out there. Oh, but look what they're doing in Runway now. And it's just going to keep going like that. So the thing is that you got to have whoever is teaching keep up with it and adapt what they're teaching. Scott, we really need to take some time to see more of your work. So let's get back to doing that.
Well, I want to make sure that I get in the new one. That's where I am at the moment. I have a whole bunch of commercial stuff going on right now. But I think, well, let me just put it out instead of talking. Hold on a second. Okay, you can still see me?
Yep.
All right, here we go. All right, so let's say this is the one I was talking about with the 3D character. The gray section was rendered in Cinema 4D way back when, as actually all these poses were and everything. But the original was I used textures in DAZ 3D, like the muscular down here. And then on top of that, I just went in with 3D, but like basically every hair I had control of doing it like this. So like I set up a team render machine here with just 2 or 3 computers at a time, but I was able to render with Cinema 4D faster, but it's still compared to AI, it's just so slow. So if I can get it into the ballpark with 3D, if that's the way if I'm going 3D that day, if I get it into the ballpark, then I can actually do something like this. That's just straight out of 3D. I didn't have to model the jungle plants or anything. And I'm thinking nobody's going to sue me for those. But if anybody has any problem with the character, I have it going right back to the original mesh. But I can do character sheets with it. Whatever I need to do, I can do quickly lay out something like this. And it's like I'll rework it. I'll fudge it in Photoshop a lot of times because AI, the closer you look, I'm very deliberate about things. So if I see issues, um, I will go after them. I've gotten better about being quite the perfectionist because I think with AI you can work faster and you can get closer. And at one point I would, if I were doing this in straight 3D, the entire thing in 3D, I would be looking at so many pixels, and if there was anything going wrong with it, I would render from scratch again. And with this, I can get it like 90% of the way there, and then clean up what I need to do and just keep on working and go faster with it. But let's see. Another 3D thing I could show you is, and this is not 3D. This is something that I was working with, playing around with, just a concept car design. And I was playing around with it. I looked at it, I was like, well, would this thing even work? Because in a way, it's like kind of ridiculous. It's kind of like a Batmobile car, but it looked kind of sleek. So I started playing around with it and I started developing it. And eventually I was like, okay, it's like, and this is the kind of background that you do. It's like I looked at it, and just as far as the physics of the thing, like the very front wheels would turn more than the secondary wheels at the front, and it would do this and it would do that. So I do my, I do the research before I get too far into it. But like this, it would take me, I don't even know how long it would take me to model something like this, at least a week. And I'm not the greatest car modeler, but you could, it's like it's just a quantum difference between being able to do something like this in the course of a month, maybe, versus get this close with it right out of the gate. It's like it starts with a sketch and it goes straight into it. I started actually before the people that I'm with now. I used VizCom. I also used LTX Studio, which is really good for storytelling. I kind of felt funneled in there, but now I'm a free pick partner, so I like having all the tools at my command. So my working method keeps changing, but I also like to use like the lower renders just to test how things would work before I even go to the larger ones. And this is just a quick test run. But to be able to do this in a matter of a day, compared to like not even getting the wheels modeled, in a day, is like a huge difference. And I'm able to cover so much more ground. I think, let's see. So this, I want to make sure I get the new stuff in there. So this is
I do want you to show your sample reels too, but ideally your old one and your new one.
All right, let me get the old one first. I think you already see some stuff that's going on with that one. So the first one I did was a mixture of everything. It's here somewhere. Oh, it's this one. Okay.
crush out. Put a crush out. Gonna crush out.
The beats were a little out of sync there. Let me open the next one in a proper program. I was just previewing that one. So the music hits on the beats. Hold on, let's get this going again. All right, so this is the most recent one. I think I have two versions of it going.
What's that?
I think I have two versions going. Yeah, I had the second version going. Okay, so that was the most recent one. And I also happened to do these. I thought these were kind of interesting. So I think that shows my my comic book background from way back in the day. So if I hadn't gone into advertising, I was going to be pursuing comic books, but advertising it was. So that's a good amount of it right there. So that brings you kind of up to date.
I don't know about everybody else, but I think your work is just awesome, and
Thank
I
you.
just think that the quality of what you're doing is so spectacular. You know, I just wish that more people could aim for doing that kind of quality work. Unfortunately, so many people that are doing things on LinkedIn have limited background, but also limited finances. And this stuff costs money to take and produce stuff with these different programs, particularly given the fact that you've got multiple takes that didn't work, and so you're paying for those as well. Your work is, without a doubt, just top quality professional work, and
Thanks.
I think that great for people to be able to see what you're doing. I'm going to open up the floor for people to make any comments or ask any questions. But before I do, I've got my question. Why Baer?
Ah, that is actually a sticky nickname. I got it around fourth grade or so, just because I was a big kid. It's like I was a big kid, had a lot of hair, and that lasted a few years, and then it went away, and then I started playing a little football in high school, and it came back, and then when I left, it went away again, and then I was at when I went off to college, somebody knew me, and it came back again, and eventually I had to settle on a working name, and there are a lot of Scott Davises out there. ScottDavis.com was taken, and I actually I was looking for Baer Davis, Bear Davis, and that was taken also. And I was like, well, let me get a placeholder, and I took Baer Davis, Baer Davis, and I had that. And then eventually the guy gave up Baer Davis, and I have that one too. So if you go to either spelling of Baer Davis, you get there. But I think that's a pretty good name. It's you know it's solid. It lets you know that there's some stability there. It's not like all serious, and it's got strength. So I think it's a decent working name.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
People, comments? Glenn?
Terrific work, Scott.
Thank you.
I guess my main question is, you obviously have a sense of humor, and I you know, if someone said, "What did you wish Scott did more of?" It would be more of that. Like I thought the Batman stuff visually was incredible, but my favorite part was the lunchbox because no one's done that before.
Yes. I started putting it together. I had a bunch of pieces, like that's just an assembly of pieces, and I had some pieces that I liked. Like I like the giant foot, for instance, and different people like different things. But it's like I liked all these for different reasons, and thematically, I was just trying to kind of sew them together. Like I have this weird kind of scarecrow thing that it leaps forward at the end, and it's like the only more or less traditional looking animated piece. But it was a nice segue because there's the head bob. But it's it's just whatever really appeals to you. For these, you have so much flexibility. And I said, you know what? No one has ever done was actually that I had seen that was actually used the Batman lunchbox. And it started off. I actually veered off a little bit midway because I had started out with a kid working at the drawing table. Here's a little insider. Excuse me, a little inside information. The kid is actually the same kid. The kid drawing is the one who's in the Batman video. But originally, that kid was actually just drawing something, and outside his window, everything was changing. And then I had the idea of working in Batman, and then I was like, why don't I just have the kid doing Batman? And then from there, I'm like, you know what? I came up with the lunchbox because I'll have 30 ideas before I have nothing but notes and cards on everything that I think of because it just keeps going. And I said, nobody's done the lunchbox. And I thought that'd be funny. And then I'm like, and he's always in the rain. and I was like, you know what? Let's just have that thing full of Batman products. And I thought that was kind of the way to go with that. And actually, I won't show it. I have it in the background. I was going to do a follow-up, and I actually have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bites taken out of it that make the bat symbol, and that was going to be like a promo commercial. But I didn't have time to get everything out in time. I wanted to get the commercial out. But I like the Batman lunchbox too. I thought I was taking a chance because it starts out as a regular demo reel, but it's actually a little bit of a story, and then the story concludes at the end. So I was like, I hope nobody like tunes out before the credits are over because I thought the ending was. It's a change of pace, but it's also, I thought it kind of really wrapped it up because at the beginning you have a very traditional, nothing, it looks cool, but it's nothing special Batman kind of story. And then, at the end is where it actually gets a little bit more interesting, I think.
Anybody else comments? Yes, Lutz.
Hello. I don't have a comment. Comment is the quality is really awesome. No question about it. I have the hope that you have also experience with AI and stereo 3D. creating content, especially stereo 3D in a clean way. That means with a correct camera, with a dynamic camera, and this kind of stuff. Is this also an area you are looking into, or not really?
I'm interested in it. I haven't gotten that far with it. I was doing Cinema 4D for, I still am doing it. I've been doing that for like a decade, and that was always one of the areas that I was interested in. And I was working with a company that wanted to do their products in 3D, and that was something I looked at for a while. But I remember when I was a kid, I had these used copies of Starlog, and they came with one of them came with 3D, the red,
Yeah.
blue, green.
Yeah.
And I was always fascinated with it. And it's like at some point that's going to be one of those things that I have to tackle. I have a friend who's doing VR, and I keep thinking, I should call her up and give her a quiz about that, because it's such an interesting field. And actually, one of the things that reminds me of, early on, I was thinking of AI. Remember in Star Trek with the holodeck? And I remember seeing that way back when, and I was thinking, if we ever get there, what would artists be doing? I mean, they'd be creating holodecks. It's like, would there be like regular artists left? They showed somebody painting and everything, but at the same time, it's like you're thinking, well, we're already here, and we're getting closer and closer to full out, something like that. It's like AI is like the mid step in there. So that is definitely an interesting, I mean, like for the amusement parks and for just any sort of VR game or story, I'm interested in that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of potential. I think that's not will this happen? I think it's when will it happen, that that is completely abundant.
Well, I'll tell you, I hope that our people will start following you on LinkedIn if they're not already, because it's just really fun looking at your stuff, and I would like to also post your website, because there's so much more stuff that we haven't seen, including some of your 2D animation, which is also terrific stuff.
Yeah, I still have regular illustration on there. I still have 3D stuff on there, like some product stuff. It's getting heavier into the animation, and I'm pushing that way. I've had a little cinematography background, but just like everything else, it's like there's always more to learn. So I'm focusing on the actual cinematography of it now, and it just kind of it's one of those things. Again, it's like everything kind of aligns. It's like back in the day, how I thought about it as a kid. I mean, up until about 2021, I was planning to go into comic books and that whole storytelling aspect. And I think that's why it's a natural fit. That's why you're seeing Batman. Kind of getting out of my system, or maybe getting it back into it. It's like you need to recognize where you need to improve. So, it's not just a matter of the tools getting better. It's your brain has to get better too. It's like, okay, I think you can see that I have a little bit of cinematography working in the reel, but I think I can get better, and that's what I'm working even more on now. So, and there's some really good resources out there I'm finding. So, I think it's just not a time that you can stop learning. And again, that's why your show and everything you're doing is just so great.
Well, I just am totally in sync with you on that, and the reason why I keep going is because of that. I just love learning. I was saying to somebody the other day, if I eventually stop and say I'm retired because I'm not doing client work anymore, I'm still going to be doing this stuff. I just know it. My wife used to ask me, what are you going to do when you retire? What type of things do you want to do when you retire? I'm doing it. I love what I'm doing, and I love this working with people on LinkedIn and the people that come on the main event, it's very inspiring to me to be able to do that sort of thing and keep it going, because the people that we're working with here are exceptional people, and just their work is great. They're growing as they're working on this stuff. I feel very blessed to have so many of them that I consider to be good friends, and it's it keeps me going, I'll tell you that. So let me just mention that next week we're going to have Bass Wager, Waijers, Dutch name, and he's going to be with us. I don't know if you heard me talk about him before, Scott, but when I first asked him to come on, because he's got this thing that he's been doing for a few years, since AI got started, called Basstopia, and he does some really strange critters, and he's got a whole website filled with all kinds of these things. When I talked to him, he said, "Well, I don't know if you want me to come on because I'm kind of getting disenchanted with AI, and I'm just kind of wanting to go back to doing things with my hands and doing that kind of stuff." And I said, "No, that's a perfect thing to talk about, because and I like people to see his handwork as well as his AI work. But there's been a number of people who will take a sabbatical for 6 months or whatever to because of doing something else or just needing a break from this, and so I think it's very relevant. And then the week after that is the last Friday of the month, and that will be when we get together to share everybody's results of their accepting the April challenge of doing Twitter Pated. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to having enough time to finish my my response to the Twitter Pated challenge, but I'm having fun doing it. Scott, again, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me.
Well, I think you're a good guy to bring back every once in a while. Just catch up on what you're doing, because
well, now that I've made it through one session, I think I can manage another one.
yeah.
I was a little trepidatious, but I saw your show and I'm like, yeah, this is a good guy to talk to.
Oh, and the people here are just so supportive and everything. They're wonderful group of people. Anyway, thank you very much. And as soon as I get this video edited, I will be posting it on the YouTube channel and let people know on LinkedIn where it is, and I'll send you a link to it as well.
Appreciate it.
All righty. Everybody, thank you again for being here today. Really appreciate it. And
Thanks a lot, everybody.
I'm going to stop.
Scott, appreciate it.
I'm going to stop the recording now, folks.